Our guest today is going to tell you how that really is a truth and how to make that connection. I'm so excited. Let's go.
Welcome to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
And you get a chance to interact with them. To me, that's full-time ministry.
That I happy because starting that business is like a seed. It brings in itself and then it opens it up.
I want to provide content and things that are going to help change lives, and I simultaneously want to receive a blessing from that.
Now here's your host, Kymone Hinds.
All right, folks, we're back for another exciting episode of the podcast. And if you've been following along with this podcast, you know we only bring you people who will help to elevate what you're doing in the world to increase your income and impact. So if you're here and you've been on before, share this podcast because someone else needs to hear this. Someone else needs to see this. And if you are first time, welcome to the party. This is an awesome space where you get a chance to discover your unique ministry, develop what you have to offer, and now deploy it out into the world. My guest today, I was connected to him through a friend of mine who is a friend of his. And as you learn in this episode, those connections are what really help to take what we're doing to the next level. So I want to introduce to some and present to others Robert YB Youngblood. What's up, YB?
Peace and blessings. Come on, how you doing, good brother?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on with you, someone who brings just a lot of amazing energy and also intentionality to any conversation and any thing that you're a part of. Glad that you're on the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, man. I feel like we're family already. You know what I'm saying?
Sir.
We got a couple of connections in terms of hometown and people. So I'm excited. I'm truly blessed and grateful because what I find to be important are relationships first, right? So my philosophy is relationship first, business second. You know, sometimes people want to flip that thing and they just want to get straight to business, straight to the pitch. I'm like, slow it down. Let's focus on relationship first, because that's for long-term opportunities and not just for a short-term hit. So I'm excited about this opportunity that we have today.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna give a little bit of bio, but I have a question really that I want you to answer, right? So YB, Robert Youngblood, Rob Youngblood is the founder of the Collaboration Creates Currency movement. You see it right here on his hoodie. And he's on a mission to eradicate poverty by inspiring people to live out their God-given purpose. YB is a speaker, two-time best-selling author, visionary business strategist who coaches entrepreneurs and executives to create credibility in the marketplace so they can increase their influence, impact, and income. I love those words. Those are words that we rock with here on this podcast. But YB, there's so much more. You're a husband, you're a father of two teenage daughters, member of Alpha Phi Alpha. But without without those things here, if someone were to ask who is YB, what would be your answer?
Yeah, I'm a compassionate connector, native of the Bronx, New York. My father was murdered when I was 2. I grew up in a single-parent home, and that led to the person that I've become. You know, I had a choice. I could have been a hard person like my father was prior to his demise, or I could have been who I've become, right? And so what I've learned is that through compassion, I'm able to speak to the heart of people, but I've had to overcome adversity in order to understand how to be a resource for others. And so to describe myself, I'm a compassionate connector, someone who's overcome to become.
I love it. I love it. You good with the alliterations. We're going to get some alliterations in this episode, y'all. So YB, take us back a little bit, right? You're a college graduate. You said of the greatest HBCU, Virginia Union University.
Greatest. People want to argue. I tell them, go in the mirror and argue with yourself. Don't come over here. Argue with yourself. I know Spelman just got 100 million.
Yeah.
I know Howard and Morehouse, all those great schools. But in my eyes, Virginia Union is the greatest HBCU in the nation.
YB decided to get on the podcast and choose violence right now.
Choose violence straight up the top. Come on, man.
But YB, take us back, right? You're coaching now. You're an author. You're known as the LinkedIn locksmith.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you study in school? And like, what was that path that you first took coming out of that your educational journey through college?
Yeah, so it took me 8 years to finish a 4-year degree, and not because I walked out with a master's, right? Well, I did walk out with a master's. I was a master in socialization.
Mm-hmm.
That's not on my degree.
Listen, don't play this for my kids. Like, I got one
No,
of them.
yeah, that wasn't on my
doing
degree.
that.
No, I actually, it's funny. I started out on paper as an accounting major.
Mm-hmm.
When I showed up, you know how you fill out the form, you fill out your application, you tell the school what you want to do. And so I filled out accounting because I'm pretty good with numbers. And I remember going through freshman orientation, and one of the professors, he was like, accounting? He said, do you know how saturated business is? Business is saturated. We need more blacks in the sciences. And so because I didn't have too many people in my corner who actually finished college, I didn't know who to go to kind of refute that statement. And so I ended up changing my major to math, which was a terrible decision. It was a terrible decision simply because once we got out of using numbers, no, I'm done. I'm out of here. Discrete mathematics,
Yeah.
I'm out. So I ended up doing that for about a couple of years, did mathematics, which was great because of the logic and understanding like how to challenge myself to think. But what I did not do coming into college is I didn't bring my math skills forward. I was like most of these kids now, they're like, I'm not going to ever need this.
Yep.
I needed it and I couldn't produce it. So I ended up taking some education classes, and then I got into business administration, and then I hit a tough spot in my life. I hit a brick wall in my life, and I was no closer to graduating at my 4th year in school than I was in my 2nd year of school. Like I was literally a sophomore on paper, even though I was in school for 4 years. And so in December of 2000, I remember like it was yesterday, December 7th, 2000, it was a Thursday. I was sitting in the front of chapel. So at Virginia Union, we do chapel, every Thursday. And I was sitting in the front of chapel, just boo-hooing. I mean, crying my head off because I felt like I failed everybody. I failed my mom. I failed my fraternity brothers. I failed everybody because I was on the verge of dropping out of school. And I remember going in to the registrar's office to sign off on my paperwork. And when I came out, the registrar was standing there and she gave me a hug and she says, everything is going to be all right. And I didn't realize, I didn't believe her. I was like, my life is over. And so, but those majors, right, those different changes helped me to become more of a generalist in relationship building, right? Meaning I could relate to a lot more people than if I was a specialist in my area of study, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
So I left school. I went back home to New York. I was in 3 different locations in 18 months, experienced 9/11, literally. Like I was down there in Wall Street while towers was falling. And it changed my life. It changed my life. Matter of fact, I had a fraternity brother who exposed me to a direct sales business. It was the Quick Start business at the time, which is now known as Amway. And it got me into the lane that I'm in today, right? So it got me into understanding sales. It got me into understanding relationship building, networking. And I eventually went back to school, and I was determined. I was so determined that when I got back, everything I said out of my mouth was peace and blessings, right? And I said peace and blessings so much. So this goes into the branding. I said peace and blessings so much, people didn't really know my real name. They said, oh, the peace and blessings dude? Oh, I know who you are, the one that dressed up in a suit. That's exactly who I was. And I said, I'm finishing this degree in 2 years. And that's exactly what I did. And when I transitioned out, right, the first thing I did was I picked back up that direct sales business. I got back into the Amway business. And I wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur until I talked to one of my coaches in the business. And he was like, listen, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not investing in nothing you do. You need to go get a job. And that burnt me up because I didn't want to get a job. I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to be a entrepreneur. And so eventually I tapped into a connect that I made while I was in school. He worked for the Boy Scouts of America. He said, contact me when you graduate and I'll see about getting you a job. And he did. And I got connected to the Heart of Virginia Council, which is here in Richmond. And I was the executive of the Learning for Life initiative. And the Learning for Life initiative focused on character education and career exploration. And it suited me because I was able to go into schools and work with students while also networking with professionals to get them into schools so that they could expose students to different careers before they even graduated from high school. So all of my experiences from college, that 8 years, helped to prepare me for that moment and more to come.
You know, YB, that's such a good point. I think for a lot of people, you talk here on this podcast about starting business. And I think for a lot of people, we think, man, I wasted so much time. I wasted money on a degree. I wasted time in this career. I wasted time on this job. People may even think I wasted time on this other business that I started that didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. And as I listen to you, one of the things I want to always hammer home to people is, man, there's no wasted experiences with God, right? There's no wasted knowledge. You talked about how the different majors built within you a capacity and an ability to connect with people from different disciplines.
Yes. And even now as a speaker, right? So I speak, so I don't like to call myself a speaker, right? I'm a compassionate connector who uses speaking as a tool for increasing my own visibility, credibility, and profitability, right? But what I now understand is that all of those experiences is content. It's all content, right? If I'm telling you, if I went back in and I broke down some of the lessons that I learned in some of the math courses, and I know I'm talking to people in certain industries, they're gonna look at me like, man, did you get a master's in this? No, I just studied it real quick so I could be able to relate it to the people that I'm talking to. Like, I'm sweet with the short-term game, but don't get me to talk about something for a long period of time, because then they're gonna pull the covers off. So then that's why I gotta rely on being me. Right. So when we talk about creating credibility in the marketplace, a lot of that stems from you understanding who you are and what you bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? So you can't hide but for so long. And so I just had to fall in love with my story. I had to fall in love with my experience. A lot of what I experience now has helped me to help other people to overcome where they were. Yeah. So I count it all joy. Like I used to be ashamed of the fact that it took me 8 years to finish a 4-year degree, until I ran into a dude that said it took him 12 years to finish a 4-year degree. And we all know him as E.T. the hip hop preacher. So it's kind of like, hold up. It took me 8, it took you 12, but you still killing the game. I said, I'm all right with my 8. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Now, YB, I'm so glad you mentioned E.T., because that brings us to, I had a chance to watch an interview you did for a television station recently.
Yeah.
And we'll get into how we connected, but this point here is important. I heard you share from a painful experience in your life, a challenging experience in your life, that then led you on the path to try to connect with and connected with Eric Thomas. Kind of, if you don't mind sharing with our audience here on this podcast a little bit about that story and how I shaped you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was 2015, and I was in a rough place. Like, I was in a very tough place mentally, because I felt like I was an eagle in a Tweety bird cage, if you can imagine that, right? I mean, I had these big wings that I wanted to be able to extend so I could do what God put on the inside of me to do, and I felt like I was stuck. And I remember one night just feeling like the world was spinning out of control, and I'm like, listen, I got to get off. And so I drove myself to a sports bar where, in my mind, I was prepared to drink as much as I needed to just put myself in a position where I get in my car and whatever happened. I was ready to go. But before I took that drink, I took a picture of it, and I texted to a few brothers that I knew. And I had one request. I just said, pray for me. I just said, pray for me. And then my phone dies. Right now, obviously, we know the end of the story, right? I'm still here. I didn't take my life, but the two brothers in my network came to the place where I was at. It was in a hotel. It was a sports bar in a hotel, and I didn't tell them where I was at. I just asked them to pray for me. But the napkin underneath the drink that I was about to drink gave them the clues that they needed to come get me. And they came to the spot. They didn't hammer me, right? They treated me with kindness, but they said, listen, you got so much more to live for. You got other people to live for. And so I made a decision. I still drunk that drink, right? Because I mean, I'm not a drink anymore, but for those people who drink alcohol, it's like when you pay $12 for a drink, like, hold up, I'm not just gonna let that thing waste. I'm gonna take care of it. Now, I don't, keep in mind, Saints, I don't drink, but that was my mentality then. I said, I'm not gonna waste this $12. But I eventually went to counseling. I got therapy. I found a therapist. I reached out to a frat brother who had a connection, and I used I was working for a company that gave you, what is that, EAP, where you can, tap into the resources, and I took advantage. And while I was going through the therapeutic process, while I was going through healing, I went online, I went on YouTube to look for motivation, and that's how I found Eric Thomas. Matter of fact, that's where the Lord led me to. Eric Thomas. And so I got entrenched in his content. I felt like I could run through brick walls.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I felt like I could box the devil with both hands. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so and as I was consuming the content, there was a webinar that he and CJ did. It was promoting a series that they did called GED to PhD. Right? It was a double DVD series that he had. And I ordered it, watched it at the crib, and while I'm watching the DVD in my house, the Holy Spirit said, "Bring ET to Richmond." So as clear as me talking to you, I heard the Holy Spirit say that to me, and I was like, "Hold up!" I'm talking back. I'm like, "How am I gonna do that? I know I'm the connector, but how am I gonna do that?" And so I reached out to a couple of ladies that I knew that were from Detroit. And I asked them if they knew of an Eric Thomas. They knew of an Eric Thomas who was a pastor, who was, in Detroit. But it was an E.T. the hip hop preacher. And it wasn't until one connection, we talked about one connection away. It wasn't until one connection led to another connection where I was on the phone with this brother, and he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, Eric Thomas is my mentor." I'm in my car about to have a hallelujah shout out. And then one thing led to another. I got connected to CJ Quinney, talked to him on the phone. CJ is ET's right-hand man. I was going in about how sweet I was and what I was striving to do. And CJ said the most powerful words to me that changed the game. He said, "You sound like a real sharp guy. Like, you got a lot of great things going on." He said, "But 98% of people never follow up. Don't be a part of the 98%. And he hangs up the phone. Now, brother, you know where we from.
Yeah.
You're not going to disrespect me like that. Like, who are you talking to?
I wasn't going to follow.
I'm like, I just need to travel the way you are so we can throw hands, because you're not going to disrespect me. Now, I didn't throw hands, but I did make my way from Richmond, Virginia to St. Louis, Missouri in 2016 for the first stop of the Average Skill Phenomenal Will Tour. And my whole life changed as a result of that. I had no money. I was using PayPal credit to fund my operation, but I reached out to two gentlemen in my network because, see, in my mind, I was going to be the president of Virginia Union, the greatest HBCU in the nation. And I said, well, if you're going to be president of a college, YB, you better get good at asking people for money. And so I asked these brothers the most powerful question. Would you be open to investing in my professional development? See, I'm a firm believer that you gotta be really crafty with your words. Because if I would have said, "Hey, can I borrow a couple of dollars?" they would have been like, "Nah, we not in the borrowing business."
Yeah.
But these were mentors of mine. And the fact that I said invest in my professional development, all they had to do was find out and say, "Okay, well, how much you need?" I told them. They blessed me with what they had, and that was enough for gas money and food to go from Richmond, Virginia to St. Louis, for my life to change, for me now to be in a position to change in the lives of other people. So that's a part of the story.
Wow. I don't know about y'all, man. I'm fascinated. This story, YB, just the connections and how God uses, the detours and the stops and all of it, right? But you mentioned you're the connector. Mm-hmm. Who was the first person to call you the connector? Where did you first get that?
Oh man,
yeah, tell us.
Yeah, so the first person who gave me that word, the connector, was God.
Okay.
Because I was laid off from a nonprofit position in 2012. It was August 15th, 2012. Very significant date. My last day at working at this nonprofit. And I walked out with tears flowing down my face, you know, married with 2 young girls, not knowing what the future held, but knowing who held my future. And I prayed to God that he would deposit in me something that would allow me to live for him while utilizing my gifts and talents to be a blessing to others. And he deposited YB Connects into my spirit. YB for who I am and Connects for what I do, which meant that every time I built my business, I was operating in purpose. Right. And so it allowed for me to become a magnet. Now, honestly, I was building off of some previous experience, right? I had some experience. I was on the street team for Def Jam. I was promoting and connecting people on LinkedIn, but I never really saw myself as the connector until God gave me that name. As a matter of fact, before then, I was YB the motivator. You know what I'm saying? And then for people who remember AOL chat and Yahoo chat, and you know, when the internet first came out, my screen handle was the Caramel Brother. You feel me? I was on my Mac game. I was attempting, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But so much personal growth. And so when I got that, I was willing and able to operate in spirit because of what God had given me to help me understand YB is who you are, but connecting is what you do. And even YB was a funny name because, you know, you call me Robert Youngblood, right? I don't even call myself Robert, even though that's my government. But when I got to Virginia Union, I met a young lady from Lynchburg, Virginia, who didn't believe that my last name was Youngblood, even after I showed her all my ID. She was like, nah, I'm not calling you that. I don't believe that's your name. So I'm going to call you YB. And so from freshman year, 1996, August 1996, I became YB. Now, the brothers and sisters from back home, they don't know no YB. They know now because they see me on social, but they don't know no YB. They know me as what my mama called me when I had to come home before the lights come on.
Probably with your government name
my
and your
full
middle
government,
name.
My full government.
Yes,
my
sir.
full government. You feel me? And so that piece in terms of understanding YB, right? Just YB, leveraging those long-term relationships and then connect. And that's where it came from, that YB Connect. So I would say God was the first one to call me that. But then I became a magnet. I didn't go chasing after my first few clients and when I got the business. Matter of fact, I didn't even become an official business, EIN number, all that stuff until March of 2013.
Wow.
So I hope there's a statute, a limitation. I don't want nobody coming at me for my income I made in 2012. But the point I'm making is those relationships I was attracted. One young lady I went to school with, she reached out. She saw I was doing a lot with LinkedIn. And she said, YB, can you help me use LinkedIn to get my next job? I said, absolutely. So we agreed on a time and I agreed on a price. And then she reaches back out and says, can my boyfriend come? I say, sure, absolutely. So we meet. And at the end of the 1-hour session, she writes me a check for $100. I'm like, hold up. I'm about to be rich because I never made $100 in an hour in my life. And then I attracted another opportunity and another opportunity. So I'm saying all that to say the YB Connects fit who I was because I didn't have to work super hard to do the things that was already ingrained and placed in me to do. My gift, I was able to operate in my gift and my gift began to make room for me.
I love it. Our guest today is YB. And YB, one of the things that I want you to help us with. So it's one thing to know this is what I do, right? I'm a connector, right? This is what I do. The challenge for some of us is now, how do I monetize that?
Yeah.
How do I package that, right? So you gave us an example, right? You package it into coaching an hour. How did you package it? And then what are some of the ways you've continued to package that connector in ways that people understand so they can pay you?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I recently launched a public relations firm. And I noticed how easy it is for me to make money off the public relations versus what I was doing in building YB Connects, because a lot of people could not fathom, they could not understand, how do you monetize being a connector, right? I mean, I couldn't explain it in the beginning, and then I figured it out, that I was a relationship broker. So if you think about a broker, insurance broker, real estate broker, right? People who are able to connect parties and get paid for doing so. That's what YB Connects became. But then I was astute in using the most powerful networking platform on the planet, and that was LinkedIn. So what I realized was that because there were people who lacked the knowledge and the skill to use that platform, I just created a coaching package or a consulting package for me to charge them to teach them how to use it. My very first client, $50. I had a conversation with one of my clients. Her name is Pam. And she went to the second greatest HBCU in the nation. She went to North Carolina A&T, for those of you know what I'm saying. I'm causing problems today, right? But this was a powerful situation. So I had been doing my LinkedIn work, and this was several years after I gotten started. And she approached me. She said, YB, I'm launching this program. I want to increase my visibility, but I just don't know how to use LinkedIn. Can you help me? I said, absolutely, Pam, we can make something work. And when I told her the amount for the package, it changed my life, her response.
What did she say?
She said, that's it? I said, yeah, that's it, right? And the next day when we spoke, I said, Pam, let me ask you a question. When I told you my price and you said that's it, what did you expect for me to charge? What did you expect for me to say? She said, at least $1,000, $1,500. I gave myself a raise on the spot, because Pam was an ideal client, meaning I didn't have to haggle. I didn't have to beg. I didn't have to twist her arm. She saw the value, and she even said, without her saying it, you undercharging, brother. And I changed my price, and now I have no challenges with getting what I'm asking for, because I talk to the right people. So I think for people who struggle with monetizing, I think the first thing they got to do is they got to have a concept, right? You got to have a concept. And it could be a program, it could be a thought process, it could be whatever. They got to have a concept. And then they have to impact somebody with that concept. Somebody has to get proof that this concept works. And once that happens, then you can continue to go out and promote the fact that you're able to help a person get a specific result with your concept. Now it's no longer theory, because if anybody reached out and asked me, well, why should I work with you? Well, the last person I worked with, she was able to get a full-time job of what I showed her using LinkedIn. Or the organization that brought me in to speak for 45 minutes, this is what they said about it. So I'm not here to blow smoke. Go talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's what's called creating the credibility in the marketplace, because the challenge for most people is the reason why they don't get the business is they don't believe that it works. Right? They got the ideas in their head, but they never executed on it to show people that it works. So they don't believe it works. So the moment you put it out into the marketplace and somebody's like, nah, that's a dud. That's trash. Go back to the marketplace, go back home and work on it. Or, hey, YB, based on what you said and what you did for me, I was able to land a $30,000 client, and I just want to say thank you. Right? The marketplace, now you don't have to beg, you don't have to prod, you don't have to, all that stuff. You just show up and you tell people what you do. And if they don't believe you, say, hey, no problem. Let me introduce you to the last 20 people that I work with this concept.
YB, you just freed somebody there. Because here's where a lot of us, everyone you talk to, every entrepreneur, business person, speaker, author, we all wrestle with a little bit of doubt. We all wrestle with that. And what you're saying is take what you have, get that concept, and go out and get some proof for that. Help somebody. Like, let them get the experience and the testimonial to say this works. Because what that does for you is it grows your belief.
Yes.
And then you go to the next, and it grows your belief. So will negativity stop? No, it'll stop. It will keep coming.
It will keep coming.
but you got evidence for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who you need it for first. And then
Mm-hmm.
you share that evidence. No, man, I work with 20 people who took their family life from this to this, took their health from this to this, took their
Mm-hmm.
finances from this to this. So I'm comfortable charging. And then another tip you just gave us is, and listen, YB, one of the questions I get over and over and over is always about pricing.
Yeah.
Pricing.
Yeah.
I don't want to charge. But man, you got to put some value to it. And I tell people sometimes, okay, put a number. Okay, you don't want to go with the number I'm giving you, put a number. And then allow yourself, as your confidence grows and as your proof of concept, your testimonials grows, to raise that number, which is what you told us. You raised the number as the market and your ideal client gave you that feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you what's going to take it to the next level.
Come on.
You will never be able to get people to buy your service if you don't invest.
Come on.
Right. So why was I able to level up to charge what Pam recommended is because at that time I was investing in coaching. And so I'm like, hold up, if I can invest in somebody else's service at this level, I can at least charge that amount. Right. I heard a brother talk about that and it confirmed some things for me where I'm at today, even though I was walking in that process then. And so I think the challenge for most people who are unable to charge is because they are not willing to invest. So I would say make the investment. And if you make the investment, let's say the investment is $1,000. You now have permission to ask the marketplace for $1,000. Why? Because that's what you invested in yourself. And so now, and here's the thing, it's also a spiritual thing, right? Because you won't be able to stand flat-footed to ask for that if you ain't give it. Right? Give and it shall be given unto you. Good, pressed down, shaken together, running over, right? Good measure. So yeah, we thinking from the perspective of giving to the church. Nah, if I sow a seed in the ground, it's an apple seed. That apple seed is going to produce an apple tree. But first, I got to put the seed in the ground. I got to put the seed. Then I can command. I say, okay, listen, I'm putting the seed in the ground because I want some apples. I tasted apples before. I know what it tastes like, but I want my own apples. So I got to put the seed in the ground so I can get the apple tree that produces the apple. So I think to unlock that for people, they have to be willing to invest in themselves. And once they invest in themselves, they can then go and say, listen, I'd love to work with you. This is how much it's going to be the investment. Like, don't say what's going to cost. Don't talk about what's going to cost, because people know the cost of everything, but the value of nothing. And so once you show them the value, now one of the other ways to build up that social capital or build up that business capital, give your gift away. Just give it away. That's what I did when I got into Breathe University, right? I just gave my gift away. I showed folks how to leverage LinkedIn. I gave it away. As a matter of fact, I remember one time, Holy Spirit said the number 30. I said, 30 what? He said, go find 30 people in the community and give your gift away. I said, hold up, bro. I'm calculating, man. $500 per person, bro. You know how much money that is? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And as a result of doing that, I attracted Marshall Fox, who was a struggling insurance salesman, who was in the community. Marshall's wife was on his head and said, listen, you need to tap into your gift. His gift was graphic design. And so he approached me. He gave me his gift. He redid the YB Connects logo. I then put my gift on top of it, my ability to promote, and I shared it with my network. And in 90 days, Marshall attracted 40 clients. Now, I don't take credit for the 40, but I do take credit for increasing his visibility and leveraging my credibility to help him become visible and profitable. So I think once you give your gift away and you understand the concept of what you have to offer, then you can stand flat-footed to then charge. But then when you sow, then you can charge more because you can charge based on what you sow.
That's right. I love it, man. Masterclass right here. Masterclass. Now, YB connects, right? You're the connector.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some of the ways, all the ways that you can, that you've taken that now and package it into offers, right? So author, right?
Yeah.
And speaker, like just kind of what, because I want people to understand what you have. You can be used in different ways to monetize, to build something, to create offers. Kind of talk to us about how you have done that.
Yeah, so the first thing that I did outside of helping people with LinkedIn was I built up my personal brand first. Right. Keep in mind, I was affiliated with the Amway Corporation, and I did that. But when I stepped out of that, what I realized that I wasn't doing correctly in building that model was I didn't build my brand. I was attempting to sell somebody on a business concept, but I wasn't operating as a business owner. Right. And so when I learned who I really was, then what I would attempt to do at that time, and I became successful over the years, was to find the gaps and fill the gaps. Meaning what? I have a conversation with you and I say, what are your gaps? What are the hurdles that you're facing? What are the challenges that you're dealing with? And you tell me. Then I would find somebody that had the gift or a resource that can fill your gap, and I would facilitate the connection. And I did that enough to the point where before I even made the connection, I would say, what is that worth to you? Oh man, listen, if I'm able to get this, that's worth at least $5,000. I say, okay, good. Let's say, for example, I'm able to help you make that connection. And I ask for about 10%. Would that be worth it? They say, absolutely. I just created income by doing what I normally do, which is facilitating connections that lead to an outstanding outcome.
Man, I could throw something at you, man.
You feel what I'm saying?
Keep
So,
going.
but here's what I did. I started to realize that everybody has a gap. Everybody. And everybody has a gift. Now, whether they've discovered it or not, that's another story. But everybody has a gift. Gifts fill gaps to help people achieve their goals. Right? So when we understand the gift that we've been given, and we understand how it affects certain people's gaps to help provide solutions for them, then all we should be doing is finding the people whose gap we can fill with our gift. Period. I think the reason why people are struggling in these streets is because they want to be everything to everybody when you should be everything to one body. So find that one body and knock it out the park with that one body. And then that one body is going to go tell their people, man, you need to go holler at YB because he got me all the way together. And birds of a feather flock together. So now you got that whole group of people that have the same type of gap, and you now standing there with the gift until somebody else comes along and they say, hey, listen, I know you help these type of people, but can you do the same thing for me? Absolutely. Let's work our magic. And boom, now you got two groups of people that's been impacted. And that's really how I grew. You know, I remember a lot of people ask me, how did you get the name LinkedIn Locksmith, right? Now, I told you I went to the greatest HBCU in the nation, so I know I'm pretty smart. But I wasn't smart enough to come up with that name. All I did was ran the same play that I was running, which was I connected with a brother named David Shands, right? Sleepers for Suckers. I met him through Breathe University. And he found out about me. Matter of fact, he used to host these late night calls, right? At 11:59 p.m. I forgot if it was a Sunday or whatever. I think it was like a Sunday night, 11:59. We used to call in and there'd be a gang of us on the call. And one day he invited me to be one of the speakers to talk about LinkedIn and how to use it. And eventually he scheduled some time for us to talk about how to use LinkedIn for himself. But then the next day he did a talk for Breathe University and his topic was, everyone needs a locksmith. And he asked people to come off mute and say, what are you a locksmith of? And I said, I guess LinkedIn. He said, yeah, absolutely. You are the LinkedIn locksmith. Wow. Now, because I knew David Shands is a marketing genius, I grabbed that and I've been running with it ever since. And so being one connection away and understanding that gift and understanding gaps, people then begin to remember you and they start looking for you because of how you promote yourself.
YB, man. So, okay, this is a question that I have that, because, okay, we talk about network. Your network is your net worth, or maybe the other way around, and you're one connection away. Some people might think, man, I don't want to use my friends. I don't want to use the people that I know. I feel like this is transactional in the relation, like, how would you like combat that conversation that some of us may have?
Yeah, that's perfect, because there are a lot of people that think that way, right? So you're only using your friends if your intentions are negative, right? If you and I went out on a school trip, you remember how we was kids, we used to go these field trips to the museum, right? Yeah. And you for whatever reason you just left your lunch at home. If you my guy, if you my friend, why wouldn't I share half my sandwich with you? Why would you be afraid to ask me for help? Because you sitting there hungry. Now that's pride, right? And so if I know that what I have to offer is going to help you, I'm selfish if I don't offer it to you. I'm just being selfish. And then once again, that fear and doubt, what would they say? And I had to go through a lot of that in building my Amway business. I had to, because I didn't understand that what I was offering had nothing to do with the business. It had everything to do with giving your opportunity away. And not everybody's going to want the opportunity, right? So if they say no, they're not saying no to me. They're saying no to the opportunity. But back then, I didn't realize that. I took every no personally. I was like, man, they don't like me. They think it's a scam. No, it's their lack of understanding and knowledge that tells them no. And it was my inability to communicate, to connect to a gap that they had. I was simply going through the motions of what they taught me to say. But now, if I ask people a certain question, I'm like, this person don't qualify. Like, so why am I pushing it? Like, you know what I'm saying? So there is a difference between transactional and transformational. And if I know for a fact that the people that I helped was transformed, I'm selfish if I don't reach out to some more people to help them get those same results because of fear and doubt. Now, the only thing that a person can say is yes or no. But the answer is always no if you don't ask. And then there's only really 5 reasons why people say no. There's only 5 reasons. And I'll break it down for you, right? The first reason is if they don't want it. So I don't eat Brussels sprouts. I'll come to your house. You can have the greatest, you can have gravy on your Brussels sprouts. You can have barbecue sauce. You can put some soy sauce, duck sauce. I'm not eating it. So if you want to sell me some Brussels sprouts, the answer is no. Why? Because I don't want it. So the first reason why they say no is they don't want what you have. Leave them alone. If I'm a diabetic and you offer me some cookies, I'm going to say no. I go into a shock like, no, I'm not eating what you got. I'm going to die. I don't want that. So the first reason why people say no is because they don't want it. The second reason why they say no is because you a jerk. You haven't developed your personal skills. You overtalk people, you cut people off, you late, you don't brush your teeth, whatever it is, you turning people off. So by being a jerk, you lose out on the opportunity to connect. They want what you have, but they don't like how you delivered it. Third reason is the perception that they can't afford it. Right? If somebody walks away and they believe they can't afford it, shame on you. Why? Because you didn't show them the true value. See, people will pay for value. They're not just going to pay for your service because you're offering it. No, they need to see that when they invest in this, they're going to get a return on their investment. So now they're willing to make that investment. So that's the third reason. The fourth reason is timing. You approach somebody with your service and they tell you no, you think you taking it personal. Matter of fact, you about to quit. But what you don't realize is that their mama just died from cancer. What you don't realize is that their daddy just had a heart attack. And so they ain't focused on what you had to offer. Right? And then the fifth reason is because you don't believe in what you have to offer. You wouldn't even buy it from yourself. So that's a spirit that when you talk to somebody, because you lack belief, that spirit is on them. They looking you in your eye to see if you actually believe, or they hear you on the phone and you shaky, right? They say, well, tell me more. It's kind of like, oh, no, I'm good, right? And so that's why having clarity is critical, because when you have the clarity, you can communicate with authority. Whether they say yes or no, they're going to at least walk away and say, okay, this person believes in what they have to offer. I'm not in a position to do anything, or I don't like it, or I don't want it, or I don't know if I can afford it, but I believe that this person is going to be successful. And so when we walk into an environment like that, knowing those 5 things, there's really only one thing that we can control. And that's our ability to show up, not as a jerk. And that's where personal development comes in. And so we understand how to deal with people. Everything else, that's on them. But that's the one thing we can control, is not being a jerk.
I love it. YB, there's the movement. What you said is the movement, the collaboration creates currency movement. And your goal is to tell us the goal, because I want.
Yeah. So the goal is to impact 100,000 lives this year, right? The vision is to eradicate poverty, to break the cycle of poverty, right? And build wealth in individuals one connection at a time. And when I talk about breaking the cycle of poverty, what I'm talking about is mental poverty. I'm talking about relational poverty, right? Because those are a few things so how people think is what makes them poor. Right. I was actually inspired by E.T. Right. In that, one of the things that he said was that he was homeless. He lived in abandoned buildings. He ate out of trash cans. He dropped out of high school. Right. And a lot of it was because of how he thought. And it was one connection that led him to a place where he can get a new framework, a new thought process, where then it opened up the door for him to attract some new relationships. And so what he often talks about is that his ability to become successful came from 2 things. One, the relationships he built, and his connection to the creator. And so when I grabbed that, it became easy for me to promote this concept of collaboration creating currency, right? So it's a movement, because when I was sharing this with my coaching community just the other day, that a movement means you're moving, that people are going to get caught up, whether they rock with you or not, they're going to get caught up in your motion. And as a result, your movement is tied to a cause. So people will be drawn to your cause because you're moving. And then whatever services you have that can help to support those who are struggling with that cause or with that situation, they're going to get caught up in that. And you're going to find people wanting to support you and help you promote that. So we're looking at impacting 100,000 lives. I'll tell you this, coming into the year, I said 10. Holy Spirit's like, nah.
I saw 10 somewhere. I don't know, but 100,000, I love it.
Add another zero. You know why? Because 10, I could do that in my sleep, meaning then it's on me. 100,000 is like, yeah, that's all God.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have done this by myself. Now, he's given me strategies. He's given me systems. He's given me structures. So one of the strategies was what? Aligning myself with brothers and sisters who have a podcast or who have some type of access to a media outlet. Why? Because now I can amplify the movement, the visibility of the movement, and become a magnet once again to attract those whose gaps my gift can fill.
So why be someone's listening? How can they connect with the movement, support the movement, and be blessed by the movement?
Yeah, so the first way is to connect on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is where I live. So they can connect to the movement if they go to the Collaboration Creates Currency movement on LinkedIn. There's a page on there. So folks can follow that. And that's another way that I can track who's being impacted. They can connect with me on LinkedIn, Rob YB Youngblood. But the way to actually become a part of the movement is to order a copy of the book, Collaboration Creates Currency, the blueprint for visibility, credibility, and profitability. And they can go to my website, collaborationcreatescurrency.com, where they will not only get a copy of the book, but they'll also have an opportunity to receive complimentary coaching from me so that I can give more in value than I take in payment. And so that's the first starting point. They can follow all of those platforms. They have a YouTube channel called the Collaboration Creates Currency Movement. I have Instagram, Collaboration Creates Currency. But those who want to get connected to the movement from an initial level is to order a copy of the book from the website, and we can build from there.
I love it, man. I love it. It's interesting. We don't have time to go into this. Maybe we'll do another one. But I love the fact that the book itself is a collaboration.
Yes, it is.
Isn't that wonderful? Like what you are saying in the book is a testimony to that.
Yes.
And a template of that.
Yes.
So YB, I want you to, we'll go out on this. There's a person, like talk to YB who was just getting started. What's some advice you would give to that YB today, talking then?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is get connected to your creator. Right? God gave you a gift. And the reason why he gave you a gift is because you have a purpose. There's a reason, there's something that you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put the cart before the horse. Discover your gift. Identify your gift. And your gift will make room for you as you start to identify the people who need your gift. So that was that talking to me, my freshman year in college, I would have said, YB, you're good at numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Stick with the accounting, right? Because you're going to be helping people with their business. And I'm helping people with their business now. Matter of fact, if I could go back, I would have studied marketing, accounting, and psychology, because that's all I'm focused on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So discover your gift, identify your gift, and then begin to give your gift away. And understand that there's going to be people that want your gift. There's going to be some people that don't want your gift. That's fine. It don't matter. God has a plan, and he's going to shape you and mold you and help you to understand how to do the things that you need to do so you can impact the people that you need to impact. Because here's what keeps me grounded. I'm not interested in going to the pearly gates and having a conversation with the Father and him asking me, why didn't you do what I told you to do? What could I say? I was afraid. And he says, afraid of what? I'm the creator. So you prefer to be afraid of the creation and not the creator? And every time I think about that, it pushes me to go out and do the things that I'm probably afraid to do, because I don't want to get to that point where he don't say, well done.
Wow.
And so I just challenge those who are listening. When fear steps in the room, faith jumps out. When faith comes in the room, fear jumps out the window. Fear and faith can't occupy the same room. So when you focus on faith, meaning what? Belief in action, not just talk. Belief in action. Do the work. And that'll be the testament of your faith.
Listen, YB, if you had a mic in your hand, I'd tell you drop the mic right now, man. Thank you. Thank you for living out this message. And for a lot of people, what you might lack, where your gap is, just one connection away from filling that gap, so that in turn you can fill another gap, because you're that person's connection away.
That's right.
So don't stay stuck. Don't stay in your own silo. Be willing to make the connections, to make the reach out, to make the call, and to make that connection so that you can continue to make impact. So with that, let's go monetize our ministry.
Thank you for listening to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast with Kymone Hinds. For more information, visit our website at www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. That's www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Let's increase our income and impact.